Hi guys, it's Clarice and welcome to another quick tutorial with me. Today we are going to do fall florals, specifically roses. So the colors I will be using are going to be my Carmen. This is all St. Petersburg, by the way. The violet for the roses, and then for some side florals, we're going to do a mixture of the yellow ochre along with some of the madder lake for the centers. And then we have the Mars. You can either use the raw sienna or the Mars brown or sepia. That's the kind of brown I'm looking for here. And we're going to mix that up with the yellowish green to get our nice dark green color. So yeah, those are the colors I will be using and mixing for this tutorial. So we're going to start off with our rose. And so to start that off, I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what brushes I'm going to be using to do this. And then I'll explain to you exactly how this is going to happen. So I will be using the Da Vinci #1 mop brush, and then also the Princeton 8 if I need it, and just quickly for tiny details in the center, I'm going to be using the #4 silver black velvet. So we're going to start off from the center, and I'm going to start off by using my dark colors for the center, and then we are going to use the Da Vinci mop brush to kind of just take some water on it and then flare out the centers and add a little bit of color. So let's begin. I'm going to be mixing some of my color on here. I want to get a nice pinkish purple, I guess you can say. So I'm mixing some of the red that I've picked, and I'm gonna get some of my purple in there. And this is giving me a nice dark purple. I want to have it go a little more towards the pink, so I'm going to get some more of the red. And yes, I like this variation, so we're going to start with this. And I'm going to also have just a tiny bit of the pink where it's a little more concentrated in the pink than it is here. And this is just so that when I'm going around the edges with my mop brush, I can just take a tad bit of this pink and apply it around so it matches. So let's begin. So the first version, like I mentioned, we're going to use the #4, and then we'll do a second floral, and I'll show you, we'll reverse our techniques. So we're going to start off by doing very tiny little C strokes or comma strokes. And so I'm just going to start it. Let's have the rose facing this way. So just like that. And I'm going to try and put as many as I can, so it gets me some good detail in the center. And you can feel free to kind of mix the pinks that you've done if you wish. And because it's facing this way, we have more strokes going down this way as opposed to upward. And we want to make sure that the consistency is nice and damp. And now we're going to go in with the mop brush and using just the tip. So I'm taking off most of the water. I'm getting a little bit of the pink, and I'm just going to go ahead and do the exact same motion, but I want to leave some white space in between as well. Try and use the tip because the mop brush is pretty thick and sometimes it'll kind of go all over. So see, I just don't have a lot of white space in between there, so it looks like one big chunk. So be very careful if you are using the mop brush. And I'm just gonna move the color around, adding a couple of strokes here and there. I don't want to add too much at the top because it's supposed to look like it's upward, facing that way. I'm just going to end off with these few strokes there. Now you can see how this kind of blends off and doesn't give you much detail. This is because I have a lot of water in there. So I'm just going to go ahead and get some more of my color using my number 4. And what I'm going to do is just, I need to have a really thick consistency to save this rose at this point. So I'm going to go in and highlight the centers. And I'm just doing the exact same strokes as we've been doing. And I am actually giving it a little more shape by adding these strokes. And by shape, I mean, when we added the water, it looked like one big, massive mess because it kind of blended in. And now I'm just going in and I am giving it more structure with a darker color. And because it's still damp, we're getting a nice effect. And embrace that effect. And just kind of go ahead and do the strokes wherever you feel it's necessary. I am doing it in all the areas I feel it's going to work quite well. And you should be doing the same. And look at that lovely blend that you get. Right, and we have our beautiful rose. So I'm just gonna do one more bit, and that is actually two more bits. Taking my mop brush again, or you can take, actually instead of the mop brush, I'll take the Princeton 8, and with just water on it, I'm just gonna make sure I dampen the areas that I want smudged out or more romantic blend instead of hard edged, and just gonna blend it in. And if you feel like the water or the color is too much, just take your paper towel and blend it out or wipe it out. So I have my paper towel here and I can just dab at it and take away any excess paint. But if you want to give it a lot of layers, this is the best way. You kind of just go in with just water on your brush and you're just kind of adding some strokes. All right, so that's how you do a quick rose. One other thing that I wanted to add to this was I want to go in and add one more layer of this nice dark paint with my number 4. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit more depth because now most of this bit has dried up and we can get a more consistent layer of color. And it's almost like giving us layers of the roses, which is what we want anyways. And you can feel free to stop your layers at any time. You don't have to kind of go all the way down. This is a very loose style of doing a rose. I'm just going to highlight a couple of areas and then I'm going to let it go. So leaving it at that, I'm just going to smoothen it by adding just water on the brush and just kind of stroking the area where I want it to be smooth. And we have our rose. Isn't that pretty? All right, so now for the next rose, we're going to do one in a more, or in the reverse fashion of how we did this. And pretty much what we're doing is we're going to lay down the color using our mop brush first, and then we're going to go in and do the other bits. So for this one, let's do I'm going to take this color more, but just a tad bit of it I'm rubbing off onto my mop brush. And I'm actually going to go right away and do the strokes that we did from the center. So literally we're doing the reverse. So starting here, and I'm doing thicker strokes. And so this rose is obviously pointing upward. Or a little bit sideways. And there we go. I'm going to leave it at that. Now I'm going to go back in and get some of that nice, leaning more towards the red than the purple color, and add it on the insides with my number 4. And look at that nice flare of color it gives you. I love it. And the reason for me showing you these two techniques is just to sort of show you how you can get different results, but kind of pretty results, by using these simple watercolor techniques. And you can adjust the consistency, the water consistency, by just dipping your brush into the water instead of just going for color. At this point, if you want to add more of the purple, you can totally do that as well, and just add a nice variant of color in between. There we go. So now that we've done this, I just want to go back in with either your mop brush or the number 8. Let's just use the number 8. And with just water on it, I'm just going to smoothen out these areas. Just adding some light strokes in there. And fading out the outside, I guess you could say. And now that this is done, again, we go back in and layer some more on the center. So this time you can go just use directly your number 4, taking color directly from the color palette. And it's fairly dried up, so you can kind of just go in and start adding your details. It's just a repetition of what we've been doing all this time on a smaller scale. So just like that, I'm just dipping to get a little bit of the purple so I can get some of that in there. We get a little bit more purple, although it kind of still looks pretty red. That's okay. It still complements the overall look and feel. I'm just going to dab and get some more water and kind of ease out on the color strokes. And that's it, and we are done our rose. So I hope you guys use this technique and practice. So Sunday we can do something nice. But yeah, feel free to kind of go back in and add more darker details to the center, because and when I say darker, I mean like if you just go in with some of the purple, for instance, and you just add it in while it is still damp, by the time it dries up, you'll get a nicer blend and a different effect happening. So depending on the colors that you've used and mixed up, use a little bit more of one color just to get that darker, more prominent feel. And then, so these are the roses. So we're going to quickly do the light flowers that I mentioned. And for that, I'm going to do a mixture of the yellow ochre and I'm just mixing some over here, just a tad bit. And I'll use my number 4. And so for these florals, they're just going to be pretty basic, small florals. So I'm going to do something like just using my stroke to get these petals in. And you can, once you've done 2 petals, just get some water and add the rest of the petals. They're supposed to be light. Push all the color down to the center. They're supposed to be extremely light. So yeah, just keep pushing the color down to the center. They're circular in nature. You can always take your paper towel and just kind of dab any excess if you feel like there's too much color, like I just did. And then once you've pushed all the color to the center, you're just taking your number 4 again, and you either take the red or the purple that you've mixed and just add a rim in the center and let it just flare into the pretty yellow that we have going on. And then once we have that, wash off your brush, and with just water on it, you just want to give some tiny detail to this floral. So you can either push the color upward or push it downward, or try both, because you need a tad bit of the pink on there to kind of give you that texture or indication of spread of color, I guess. There we go. I'll just do one more, and let's do one that's kind of looking like it's facing upward. So they're very light and not a lot of detail. They're supposed to be just feathering the whole image, I guess. And I've done that. I'm just going to go in and add some of the pink. Seems like there might be too much water on this one, so I'm just going to take it out. Still too much water on my brush. And now we have a nice darker color happening here. Just going to take off some of that pink at the top because it doesn't quite look like it's giving it much structure. And I'm just adding more pink to this center here. And then you can go back in here and then just add more detail. Pink to the center on this one too. And then finally for the leaves, we're going to do a mixture of the green, and I'm mixing it with some of that ochre that we have, and some of our dark brown. And we're getting like a nice dark green, so adjust the consistency to a color that you like or are pleased with. I want to get, because this is like fall influence, I want to get more of a darker color. And I'm just gonna go ahead and add a couple of strokes to kind of indicate stems. And then just giving it a couple of leaves here and there without adding too much detail. I'll just give it one more stem here. Maybe we can do one more flower. So I've done that. Now I'm dipping my brush into just the tip of it into water, and I'm just going to create a leaf. So pressing down, tapering away, using the tip to start, pressing down, tapering down into the stem. And see how we get that nice light to dark effect? We want that because it saves us a couple of, I guess, like strokes And doing it again, I'm just going to turn this around to do that. Pressing down, tapering away, pressing down, tapering away into the stem. There we go. So we got these two nice leaves. You can feel free to add a little bit more and practice your leaves. And we get some nice ones, and pushing all the color down to the center and making sure it's darker in the center so you get some nice variation to it always. You can just do one off to the side so it kind of gives it some difference there. Yeah, and that's that. So like I was saying, maybe we could just do one more floral off to the side just to kind of make it 3. So just adding strokes to indicate the petals. Dip the tip of my brush in water. I'm going back and adding another stroke on either side. And once I've done that, I'm just wiping my brush onto my paper towel, and I'm pushing down all the color because I want it to be extremely faint, extremely light. And then just using the tip of this brush, I'm going to go get some of that pink from the side and add it to the center while it is still damp. And there we go, we have our center. Now while this center is happening, you can, like I mentioned earlier, this is too dark, so I'm just washing off all the color, and I'm just going to add a couple of lines to see if I can blend some of the pink into the yellow, and just give it some detail. There we go. And then notice how these have dried up. You can totally go back in and add another layer, just like we've been doing with the roses, to highlight this center some more. If you want to add the pink, you can even go for a dark brown if you wish. It's entirely up to you. And I'm just leaving the centers white. All right, so there we go. We have our cute little florals. So join me on Sunday where we can use these techniques that we've learned and enhance and create something really pretty. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. I hope you guys found this helpful. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. What would you like to see for Sunday while we are doing these techniques and making some nice fall florals? Please do share this video in your social media channels, and let me see what your work looks like. I'd love to see it. If you're comfortable sharing, follow me on Instagram and Facebook. That's where normally people communicate with me and send me messages and images of their stunning work. So thanks so much, guys, for watching, and we'll chat soon. Bye.